Imagine being a child, barely 13 years old, and told you must marry a man twice your age. Imagine that marriage leading to a dangerous pregnancy that could take your life, yet the child you carry will grow up to wear the crown of England. This is not fiction. This is the harrowing, heart-wrenching story of Lady Margaret Beaufort, the girl who became a mother to England's future king before she was even a woman herself. The year was 1443. England was a kingdom fractured by the Wars of the Roses, a brutal civil war between two branches of the royal Plantagenet family, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. In this world of bloodshed and betrayal, Margaret Beaufort was born into a life already marked by politics and power plays. She was the only legitimate child of John Beaufort, Duke of Somerset, a man of high rank but controversial reputation. Her father's death under mysterious and possibly scandalous circumstances left her a wealthy heiress before she could even walk. But in medieval England, being an heiress was as much a curse as a blessing. It meant your marriage was not yours to choose. It belonged to the ambitions of powerful men, the bargain over a child. At just 1 year old, Margaret's wardship, the right to decide her future, was given to none other than King Henry VI. To the king, she wasn't a little girl. She was a pawn in a political chess game. Henry VI promised her in marriage to his half-brother, Edmund Tudor, a man in his mid-20s. To them, this wasn't a love match. It was a way to secure loyalty and tie powerful bloodlines together. By the age of 12, Margaret's childhood was over. She was married, in name, to Edmund, and within months of her 13th birthday, he claimed his rights as her husband. Today, it's unthinkable. Back then, it was ruthless politics, the pregnancy that almost killed her. In 1456, war raged and plague stalked the land. Edmund Tudor was captured by Yorkist forces and imprisoned in Carmarthen Castle, where he would die of the plague that same year, leaving Margaret, barely a teenager, widowed and pregnant. For a 13-year-old girl, pregnancy in the 15th century was almost a death sentence. Her body was too small, her bones not yet fully developed. Every day was a battle for survival, and yet she endured 9 months of fear, exhaustion, and physical agony. In January 1457, in the cold stone halls of Pembroke Castle, Margaret went into labor. The birth was long and dangerous. It is said that she was so physically damaged from the ordeal that she never bore another child again. But the baby survived. A boy. She named him Henry. That boy would grow up to be Henry VII, founder of the Tudor dynasty. But at that moment, he was just an infant in his young mother's trembling arms. And she was just a child herself. A mother in the shadows. Margaret's motherhood was not the soft, nurturing dream we imagine. Almost immediately, her son's safety became a political issue. Enemies of the Lancaster cause wanted him gone. To protect him, Henry was taken from her care and raised under the guardianship of Jasper Tudor, Edmund's brother. Margaret was left without her child, forced to remarry for political reasons. First to Sir Henry Stafford and later to Thomas Stanley. Both strategic alliances meant to keep her in favor with whoever happened to be in power during the shifting tides of the Wars of the Roses. But though she rarely saw Henry, her mind was always on him. She became a master political operator, navigating court intrigue, making alliances, and plotting for the day her son could claim the throne. The rise of the Tudor claim. Years passed. The Lancastrian cause was battered into exile. Young Henry grew up across the sea in Brittany, far from his homeland. But Margaret never gave up. She played a dangerous double game, serving York as queens while secretly weaving a web of support for her son's return. By the 1480s, England's political stage was chaos again. Richard III sat on the throne after the disappearance of the princes in the Tower, and public support for him was crumbling. Margaret saw her moment. She brokered a secret alliance between her son Henry and Elizabeth of York, the niece of Richard III. It was a masterstroke, a marriage that would unite the warring houses and end decades of civil war. The victory at Bosworth. In 1485, Henry Tudor returned to England with an army. At the Battle of Bosworth, Richard III was killed, and Henry was crowned King Henry VII. Margaret, now in her early 40s, had gone from child bride to the mother of England's ruler. But she was not content to fade into the background. As My Lady the King's mother, she wielded enormous influence in her son's court, advising him, managing estates, and even holding precedence over the Queen in certain ceremonies. She was one of the most powerful women in England, yet she never remarried after her last husband's death, dedicating herself entirely to religion, charity, and her son's dynasty. The price she paid. Margaret Beaufort had achieved everything her son on the throne. The Wars of the Roses ended, and the Tudor dynasty secured. But her triumph came at a cost. She had given up her childhood, suffered through a traumatic pregnancy, and endured decades of separation from her only child. Her life was a masterclass in endurance, sacrifice, and survival in one of the most brutal political climates in history. She died in 1509, just 2 months after her beloved son, Henry VII, having lived long enough to see her grandson crowned King Henry VIII. Her legacy endures in the Tudor line, but also in the silent reminder that the price of power for women in history was often paid in their own bodies, hearts, and youth. History remembers kings and battles, but behind every crown is a story like Margaret Beaufort's, a story of sacrifice, cunning, and survival. If you want to uncover more hidden, heartbreaking, and shocking tales from history, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and ring the bell so you never miss a story the history books barely whisper about.